Over the years, we've witnessed expansions of existing video games in a multitude of ways. Remakes, reboots, and sequels have been a staple in the gaming industry for a while now, and more recently we've seen some of the more popular titles be adapted into movies and TV shows, which may even spawn their own sequels. With the abundance of this practice, some are beginning to ask the question, are remakes, sequels, and movie adaptations hindering creativity in the gaming industry? In this video, I plan to analyze the conversations surrounding this question, utilizing arguments from different sources and sides of the discussion, in order to gain a better understanding of the dialogue regarding creativity in video games. Let's start by looking at remakes. Many are criticizing the practice of remakes in today's video game market. The editorial staff of GameRant, for example, writes that as more developers choose to rework old games for new audiences, we stand to lose out on creative new projects. An example of this comes from the game studio BioWare, who set aside Shadow Realms, a new title, in favor of another installation in the Star Wars The Old Republic series. In addition, Frank G. Bossman, a theologian of culture and a senior researcher at the Tilburg School of Catholic Theology, states that video game remakes, quote, unify the longing for an unspoiled, idealized past by, in, and through the medium of video games. Media historian and assistant professor of communication studies at the University of Iowa, Logan Brown, argues that video game remakes should be viewed as a creatively challenging and politically underdetermined cultural force, which demands analysis on its own terms. Jordan Alleman, freelance writer, editor, consultant, and scriptwriter, contests this by saying that we always talk about the bleeding edge of technology, but we can't truly make the most of it unless we disengage from the comforting embrace of the games we've played before. Ultimately, many view remakes as a negative for creativity, as they take up space that could be held by original IPs. Others, however, believe that they are actually intuitive due to the transition from older consoles to newer. In addition to this, some argue that those agitated by remakes and reboots are simply not looking in the right place. Independent games, as Jordan Alleman states, are the future of creative gaming. Similarly to remakes, sequels are coming under criticism for their perceived lack of creativity. Jade King, lead features editor for The Gamer, states that new is dangerous, unknown in a way that requires audience to open themselves up to something, and for the creators involved to be provided funding and talent to make such things possible in the first place. She argues that companies and consumers have become too comfortable with the current state of games, that the community is, quote, stagnating, happy with where we are creatively, and not knowing how or when we will move forward and see the medium mature because we're so comfortable in our apathy. Rory McCarty, page designer and editor for the USA Today network and community writer frequently found on sites like VentureBeat, argues that, quote, if you look a bit further back, you'll find that this has been the case for decades. One example is Mega Man, which received a new installment every year until about 1993 after its 1987 release. Regarding creativity, the argument surrounding sequels is really similar to that of remakes. While some believe they are often uncreative rehashings of existing media, others argue that, because of new mechanics, characters, and storylines being added, creativity is alive and well when it comes to sequels. Many popular video game titles such as Sonic, Pokemon, and Mortal Kombat have received film adaptations, and due to the many differences between the narration styles of a video game versus a movie, many feel that video game movies are yet to prove critics wrong. Keza McDonald, winner of the Games Writer of the Year in 2012 award from IGN, argues that fantastic video game movies do exist, it's just that none of them are adaptations. This is because most video game movies don't stray comfortably from the source material. There's no good reason why video game movies should stick lavishly to the meandering plots of actual games, she states, arguing that video game movies have the potential to be good, but at the moment they're lacking the creative prowess required to succeed. I should note that her article was published in 2018, before the release of movies like the Super Mario Bros. Movie and the Sonic films, which were generally well received. Maria Katsaridou and Betty Kaklamanidou, both from the Aristotle University of Thessaloniki, argued against this by providing an example of a movie adaptation that went well. They argue that since places, characters, and storylines can be transported from video games to film very easily, the attention of a video game film adaptation study should focus on the decisions of the filmmaking team during the ingredient selection process. The film adaptations of Silent Hill, they argue, met this mark, ultimately creating a, quote, unique female cosmos in the context of the horror genre, due to multiple accomplishments when it comes to finding a balance between creating a movie that is both an interpretation of its source material and a viable movie on its own. Movie adaptations seem to have a more positive outlook compared to sequels and remakes, as many believe there isn't much of a lack of creativity. A lot of video game movies are still enjoyed for one reason or another, but critics agree that there are certain characteristics that make a good adaptation. These characteristics require a great deal of creative prowess, which some movies definitely do not hit the mark for. In the discussion of creativity's current presence in the gaming industry, there exists many perspectives. While many feel that remakes, reboots, and sequels are overriding original ideas, others feel that these expansions provide more than enough innovation. The realm of transmediation is a far cry from the former, and as a result, sentiments do differ. Many are able to enjoy video game films to a higher degree than they might the fourth or fifth installment in a game series. All three topics, however, would likely require a great deal of creativity to be implemented in order to be successful and for consumers to feel satisfied.